Welcome to Internally Guided Life, a podcast to help you unlock a life of balance, fulfillment, and joy. I'm Kayla Sweet, and together we are going to have fun and create change from the inside out. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back, my friends. I am so excited to have you here for another, what is sure to be soul-enriching conversation here on Internally Guided Life. I have been waiting for a couple of months to talk with today's guest, and it's one of those people who is a kindred spirit in the space of, recovering from burnout and being on a healing journey and navigating personal transformation. So I just know that this conversation is going to be so rich and deep and beautiful. I'm excited to share it with you all, and we haven't even recorded it yet, but I know. So we're going to be digging into how we navigate some of those really intense challenges in life and some that are more chronic, not the necessarily acute moments of pain that we all experience in life, but when we are dealing with more long-term things like burnout, chronic stress, chronic illness, these things that require some fortitude as we manage them and commitment to that healing process. And the guest who is going to be guiding us through this is Heidi Blackie. She is a speaker, a consultant, and the creator of UnshakableMe. This is her program that helps women really dismantle limiting beliefs, rediscover their strength, and awaken to the possibility of their life. She has a very inspiring personal life story, which I will let her share in a moment here. But I am very confident that if you have struggled with stress, burnout, illness, grief, any of those prolonged challenges that life tends to hand us at the most inconvenient of times, this episode will give you something nourishing and hopefully be an invitation back home to yourself. So with that, welcome, Heidi. I'm so excited.
Thanks, Kayla. I'm really excited to be here.
So let's just dive right in and tell us a little bit about your story. So I know our life stories are like these long layered things, and we could talk about them for probably days on end, but the pieces that you think would be most important to help our listeners orient to who you are and what you're about in the world. We can start there.
Okay, yeah, it's a long history, but I think so. In the early 2000s, late 90s, my mom was diagnosed with cancer and had a bone marrow transplant. And I'd always had a pretty full life and a busy life. But what I took from that was that I have to squeeze the marrow out of every single day because I don't know when my time is up. And so for over a decade, well over a decade, I was going all the time. Moment my feet hit the floor, I woke up with a scarcity of time. How am I going to pack everything in? And there were a lot of choices, but also work and jobs. I had several jobs. I had just bought a house, so I was trying to afford that. But I never took time to relax and slow down. And I was racing my bike and doing social things and house projects and all kinds of things. And I started to have these little episodes of these injuries that wouldn't heal, and small whispers kind of from the universe to slow down. But instead, I patched myself up and I kept going. And I modified my training and I kept racing. And I did this for years until I started developing chronic illnesses. So that was around, I went to the first time I went to the doctor was in 2011 for illnesses and injuries. And I made a lot of changes to my diet but I kept on that lifestyle. And in 2014, I started paring down my life. I stopped racing my bike. I actually stopped riding my bike. I quit one job and had a couple others and slowly kind of pulled back my life, but never went inward and did the work. And then in 2016, I had successive major stressors. I lost my dog to cancer, and 2 months later, I lost my sister to suicide. I got married for the first time 6 weeks after that, which was great, but it was survival because my body was on fire. And then a year later, I did end up losing my mom to cancer, and I lived with her for 3 months to kind of help make that part of her life better. But I also had several successive things happen after that. And so these massive life-changing stressors just kept coming at me. And what it did was all those chronic illnesses, those little things that would hang on that my immune system was trying to tamp down, although I was writing so many checks I couldn't cash with all the things in my lifestyle. Those stressors were like a lit match to everything. And in 2021, I lost my career. I lost relationships. I couldn't drive. I was in bed most of the time. I couldn't find words. I couldn't think. I couldn't process. I was nauseous and in pain and really at a point where I had nowhere to turn. I had no doctor. I had no diagnosis. I had no path forward. And nobody understands it unless they live it. I mean, you can say this is how I'm feeling, but I felt very alone, and it was in the pandemic, so there was that piece of it too. But I wasn't seeing people anyway. I mean, I had stopped seeing people back in 2019, really, and stopped traveling. And so I sat in my kitchen. I remember it was like a dark, rainy January morning, and I I felt so alone and full of despair. And I thought, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm terrified, but I'm it. I don't have a doctor. My husband is supportive, but he doesn't really get it. My dad is scared and is going to, send me to the Mayo Clinic, which I knew they're not going to be looking for what's going on because I've tried, and so I turned the question inward to what am I believing about my body's ability to heal? And I had tried lots of treatments and medications and supplements and nervous system and somatic work and limbic system retraining. And I taught those to clients and patients. But there was always this missing piece, and that was me.
Hmm.
And I knew it, but I always kind of kept it at arm's reach. And this question was a really hard question. And the answer was that I'm actually believing I'm not going to heal and I'm going to get cancer, and that's going to be it. Because my trajectory had been getting worse, getting worse, getting worse with each doctor that I saw. They would try stuff and I would be way worse.
Hmm.
And I thought, wait a minute, if I believe I'm not going to heal, there's no way I'm going to heal. No way. So I dove into the research on the biology of belief and the science of gratitude, attention, intention. I started meditating and practicing mindfulness, but a huge piece was making a vow to myself to believe in myself and to believe in my body's ability to heal. And I made sticky notes everywhere and believe, and I had reminders and mantras, and I recommitted to myself sometimes hourly, daily. And slowly was this kind of unfolding of meeting this person that is me for the first time. And I always kind of felt like I'm not enough and questioned myself and my belief in myself my whole life. And it's not like, okay, I made a vow, here we go. I now believe in myself. It's like a living organism of that you have to nurture. You plant this seed of belief, but I have to nurture it with kindness and compassion and acceptance. and belief. And so I started peeling back the layers of my illness and the stories and the beliefs around that, and really finding I was keeping myself in this mental prison on top of the physical prison that my illnesses already held me in. And it wasn't until I really unpacked those stories and those beliefs that I saw they were limiting me. And and found that connecting with myself and belief in myself and the mindfulness and journaling and meditation, those were all keys to freedom
Mm.
from those limiting beliefs. And through this process, it's just it's an amazing way to live because I know who I am. I know why I'm on this planet. I have clarity. I can make decisions faster than I ever have. It kind of freaks my husband out. He's like, "Wait, I have it. I've made a decision. It's not I don't have to belabor it." But it's just this joy, this deep well of joy and resilience and strength that I have found through this connection with myself. And I never set out to make a program, but it's based on the pillars of what I have found and what the research has shown to be the most transformative in terms of immune system, mental health, as well as managing stress, sleep, so far reaching. All my relationships are so much better because my relationship with myself is so much better. And I want this for everyone. Kayla, I feel like this is what we need right now in our world to be able to cross the divide and connect with each other. But it starts with us.
Yeah.
And it was really unexpected. But it's just this incredible, it's hard to articulate this feeling that I have, this way of being. And it's life is about being. It's about becoming. It's not about doing. And that's what I thought it was. It's completely shifted the lens through which I see the world, the lens through which I perceive what is most important in the world and what's most important for us and why we're here. And it's been hell to get here, but honestly, it's been worth it. I mean, it's crazy as that sounds. I have gratitude for this adversity because it's made me who I am and it's changed my life in the most incredible ways. And I'm still on my healing journey, like you said, I've got a ways to go, but that's the other piece is that you don't have to get there. There is no there, but
Yes.
you don't have to wait to feel joy. Joy you can feel amidst the pain. And that's something that I was always reaching for, this feeling better so that I can have XYZ and feel XYZ. But you can feel it now,
Yeah.
even in the pain. So,
Oh my goodness. There's so many like juicy seeds of a conversation and everything you just said, but the first thing I need to say is just thank you for sharing your story. Um I think it's really going to land. It landed with me. I think many of us in Western culture, fall into these types of self-abandoning practices and the striving and the running and the doing. And yeah, I think the word burnout, I use that a lot because it's
mhm,
common and people kind of know what you're talking about, but you're right, you don't really fully understand and it doesn't even feel like it's enough to capture the experience of like it's not just mental, it's not just physical, it's not just spiritual, it's all of the above. It's this entire system meltdown, exhaustion that, yeah, it's very hard to kind of pull yourself out of. But I think the beauty of your
mhm,
story and of parts of mine and some of the people that, you and I get to encounter is that when you've been there and you've seen that and you felt it, and then you reclaim and reconnect with yourself, you are
mhm.
so grateful for it. Like it feels magical. It feels unreal. Like it's so beautiful. Like we have access to this right now. What do you mean?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I was talking to a client yesterday about it, and it's just like this is living. It's the most amazing thing, and it's free, and it's available to all of us, and but it's counter narrative
Yes.
on so many levels, and we are conditioned. All the research I've done, and probably you, we live automatic patterns. That's it. We're just programmed,
Yeah.
and we don't realize it. We have all these stories that have been planted in us that we express all day, every day.
Yeah.
And we wake up the next day and we repeat it again and again and again. And it took like beating me over the head. I mean, I was depleted and burned out years before from just being in healthcare for 20 years. And the changes and just giving because I'm empathic and so it just but I don't know what else I would do. I want to help people and I don't, so there's a lot of this trapped feeling. If I let go of this, then what do I have? And that's also a story.
Yeah.
That's also a narrative. So it's waking up. I mean, once I woke up to these stories and I really tested the truth and created new stories and new evidence and found new evidence that was already existing to support these new stories, I feel like I was sleepwalking through my life.
Mm.
And the irony is that thought, I mean, as an athlete and a holistic provider, that I was awake, which is it's yeah, it's like a spectrum, and I was kind of maybe not all the way in autopilot, but for a lot of my life I was, but I was like maybe a little bit like, okay, open my eyes and then go back to sleep, kind of when I look back. So yeah, it's just a different level.
Yeah, you were getting those like glimpses or those moments or those insights, but then the patterning is so strong. I think is such a big part of this, right? Like often,
Mhm.
more often than not, like we have no conscious awareness whatsoever of
Mhm.
the belief that's driving our behavior. And it
Mhm.
really takes intentional work and practice. I loved how you said like you have to nurture like the relationship with yourself, and you also have to the reprogramming, the reconditioning, and the deprogramming, like that's a practice too, because those old narratives, they just like sneak their way back in if you aren't paying close attention.
Definitely. And that's where I think one of the first steps or the first step is awareness. Because if you're not aware of that autopilot and how you react, you can't respond with intention. You can't be intentional. And I think of those negative, those old stories or our internal critic as kind of the weeds to pull for this seed that I've planted that you got to stay on top of, or you've got like, these weeds everywhere of the old patterns. But our bodies are they want same, our nervous system wants same. So when we try to change, it's that feeling of, oh, this isn't safe, this may be wrong. It's not, we're not wired for novelty. We're
Mhm.
wired for efficiency. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it feels so much more efficient to our brains to do things the way we've always done them, no matter how
Exactly.
harmful they are.
Yes.
We were given faulty like programming or faulty like hardware. I think the ancestry, our heritage, we weren't built for the world we're in, and so now we have to like take the
Mm-mm.
reins and do that work on purpose because this is what kept us alive this long, but the world we're in now doesn't need it.
Right, exactly. And I think too, the beauty of neuroplasticity and being able to really, I don't want to say manipulate our nervous system, but to direct it is that is huge. And that's what gives us kind of the tools, the scalpel to reframe reform and reshape and restructure our brains and our minds to kind of navigate those new patterns.
Yes. Yeah,
Hmm.
and the science is so cool on it. Like when you
Love
start
it.
to look at the research and the imaging and things that have been done and you can see like this is a real tangible change. And I mean, you feel it in
Mhm.
your body when you're doing it, but it's a cool thing to see it portrayed, like with the
Yeah.
different parts of the brain lighting up or developing or changing. Like it's such a tangible shift in, this operating system that defines how we are in the world and how we think and believe and behave and relate. Like we get some choice in it. And I loved the question you asked yourself when you were like in that place of everything is kind of crumbling around me. Like, what am I believing? What am I believing right now? I don't think that's people's first instinct. Like it was a higher thing that like brought that question to you in that moment, like to be able to self-reflect that way and to realize that your beliefs might be the thing that's contributing to all of this. Like that is very powerful.
Yeah, it was, I had a voice way back at the beginning that was like a tiny voice that said, "You have the power to heal inside of you." And I had no idea what that meant. And I didn't even know what it meant when I proclaimed my belief in myself and my ability to heal. And it was kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how this works, but I'm going for it because I have nothing. I have no one and nothing else. And it's up to me. And I need to turn the lens inward and be the research subject and and do the digging, look at the literature, but also look inside and see what's here and all the layers of protection and all the things that I've been believing. Because whether you have burnout over, usually it's not overnight, it happens over time, and chronic illness as well. But you change. You have the physical changes that happen because of the chronicity of an illness, and it's no longer going after a bug. It's look at all these downstream effects. And when doctors say, "Oh, it's in your head," or "I don't know," or that really erodes your belief in yourself. And you start to kind of, and people, there's definitely stigma around chronic illness and still mental illness, which it's so ubiquitous. You would think that we wouldn't have that, but we do. And it's unseen. So it's this inner kind of turmoil that's going on that, you know, nobody can see, but it just gets beaten down over time. And so, I developed ways of coping with it that weren't really healthy. I just would shut down and, so it definitely took a lot of excavation to really see what was there and then meet it with acceptance. And
Mm.
I had a completely wrong assumption of what I thought acceptance meant before I went down this road. And
Mm.
that's why I resisted accepting it, even though it was very obvious that my world was shrinking. But I was like, no, I'm an athlete. I'm a robust athlete. I'm not a chronic ill person. I'm not. So there was a lot of denial. And even though it was kind of like, look at you, you're in bed, you're kind of sick all the time. So, there are these, again, it's these stories that we tell ourselves. If I accept it, then it means this. Our brains are such meaning makers, you
Mhm.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and the like it means this about me. Like I'm hearing like so many threads of identity like woven through there of all the things that we think we are, that we tell ourselves we are, that like we build up this structure in our minds of
Um,
who we are and what it means to be that person that we've created. And
right.
anything that, runs counter to that, our brains just immediately push it out, even if it tries to edge its way in or we're exposed to those things. Like there's this protective factor around this identity that we've created for ourselves that might not be fitting us so well anymore, might not be who we really are, who we were meant to become. And yeah, I think the dismantling, I loved you used the word excavate. That's one of my favorite words to use for like inner work, right? Because it really feels like that. It's like this like really intensive digging, like visceral process. But
Totally. And when you lose those labels all those labels that I worked so hard to achieve, for credibility, for approval, for, I'm a high achiever. Who am I? If I don't have any of that, what's left? It was this path. It was like you can either go down this dark road where there is no light and you only face the things that you've lost and you're this shell of a person that you once were. Or I can take this other road that may have a light at the end of the tunnel or may not, that's unknown, but it's an invitation to who am I under all those layers? Who am I? That's we're not the labels. Those are all external, um, not validation, but they're all external identities, definitions. But when you lose that, or even beneath that, what are you? And I think that's where we run into trouble with culture, where that's all you feel you are. And that's why we have so many people who feel so empty and so depleted, and life isn't, very happy or meaningful because we depend on those externals to fill us up, when really it's just we need to give ourselves love and compassion, and that fills you up like nothing else does. And those other things feel that much better because you've already sourced it inside, and now you're just adding on.
yeah.
It's so much more powerful.
Ugh, you are speaking my language. I internally guided. That's like my whole
Yes.
brand, right? Like we accessing that. Like you don't need the external validation that we are taught that we need to be
Yes.
worth something, for our lives to be worthy, for us to be worthy of love and of rest. And like it's this, yeah, this narrative that we're sold and then we adopt and we internalize and we take it as our own and we can choose something else. And I think what's so powerful is that, you did that, and many people are starting to wake up, one at a time, with or without support, to the fact that we do have a choice in this. And
Mhm.
you took your experiences and turned them into this program, and you have, really tangible actions that have helped. So I would be curious for you to share some of the things that supported you as you moved out of burnout, out of chronic illness, and you're on this trajectory to where you are now. Like, what were some of those key practices that really propelled you forward or inward?
Yeah. So a big one was journaling, and there's over 200 papers on the benefits of journaling. And I've never been a big writer, but I just kind of sat down and started writing. And there's so much safety in the pages because you aren't judged. You're just spilling it. You're letting it out. And I'm a busy brain person. It's funny. My dad's like, I'm ruminating again, and he's like, it's in the genes, and I'm like, thank you, I've got it, but I'm working on it. And but it just helps with getting it out of your head and onto the page, and it gives you maybe a little bit of objectivity. The funny thing is I never go back through and read them. I've filled volumes, and it's just the exercise of just getting it out that helps me kind of work on relating differently to it.
Mm.
Another one was meditation. And before, I could never meditate because, again, I'm a little busy brain, but I didn't really understand that meditation is all about coming back. It's about it's almost like push-ups, you know, it's that awareness and sitting quietly and oh, I'm having a thought. Okay, there it goes. And then coming back to the practice. So that was a big piece of it. And as a part of that was also acceptance. So really feeling into what I'm feeling. And for a long time, my symptoms were all consuming. I mean, very long time. And it's hard to see other things. So when you relate to that, when you accept, okay, you're here, I'm going to let you be here because you're part of me,
Mm,
whether I like it or not. But I also am going to look at what else is here. And for so long, I was kind of staring at that one grain of sand. And that's all I could see because it was screaming the loudest. And that's all I could identify with. But when I started to kind of open up and let that sand be here, then I could see the rest of the beach and see, okay, well, and gratitude was another big piece of that, where it was like, okay, see what's here, and actually have gratitude for what's in my life right now. I mean, I have plumbing, I have delicious organic food, I've got a partner who's supportive. You know, I have a lot of amazing things in my life. I have a dog, I have nature. So it was kind of, those were some of the early pieces. And then really looking at my attention, what I'm paying attention to. You know, where our attention goes, energy flows.
mhm,
And so making that change in the moment, choosing, okay, yeah, I can't control every thought, but I do have a choice of whether I want to follow that and then have that maybe turn into an emotion that may or may not serve me, or I can choose to come into one of my mantras or one of my anchors. So choice is a huge part in attention, and then setting an intention. Every day I set intentions, and in tasks I set intentions. I go see a client, I set an intention. I get into my car, I set an intention. So it's about just really being awake and purposeful with what I'm doing.
mm,
And it takes practice, and but the more you do it, the easier it is and the more aware I am. And so I can respond to stressors now that I used to react to, because my prefrontal cortex is much more accessible. I don't have to wait 30 seconds and breathe or count. I can pretty easily, reach that without knee-jerk reactivity.
mm.
So, and breath work. I mean, there's a pretty long list, but
Yeah,
and
there's so many things.
yeah, movement is very important. That's huge, and nature. But it's funny, I love moving, but I do it completely different mindset than I did when I was, a competitive athlete.
Mm. Okay, you just shared like so many amazing things. So hopefully, when you're listening, like if you missed that, go back, rewind, get out your pen, and write down some of those because those are all gold. But I want to circle back to acceptance for a second
Hmm. Hmm.
because you mentioned that earlier when you were talking about, your journey and how the way you related to acceptance or what you thought it meant changed for you across this time. So. Let's dial in on that a little bit because I think that one's hard for people in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about maybe where it was and where it is now and what's that road? Like how do we bridge that gap?
Yeah. I used to think that if I accept it, that means that it's who I am. It's defining, it's identity. And I had patients with the same illnesses that I have who they lost everything. And
Mm,
again, it was like, Heidi, you kind of lost most of it. But I felt like if I accept it, that means I wear it, I am it, and I can't change it. And resistance actually also increases our sympathetic nervous system, by the way, and acceptance and compassion reduces it. So that was some of the other research I did. But that is absolutely not what acceptance is at all. It could not be further from the truth of it. We are, what you were saying, we are animals. We are imperfect beings. We are wired for survival. It served us well, but we also live in a time where we're not created, evolution is not able to keep up with where our lives are right now. And we're imperfect. And so we have a lot of us have this bar that's just way too high. It's not realistic. It's a standard that we'll never meet. And yet we strive and strive and strive and strive for it. What acceptance does is it says, you can strive, but I accept you for who you are right now, right in this minute. You're going to make mistakes because you're human. And that is, your dog barks at the door and you don't want it to. Do you not accept your dog or accept that about your dog? No, that's part of my dog. She does that. It drives me nuts. I'm training her not to do that. But we don't give ourselves that same acceptance, compassion, understanding. So acceptance doesn't mean that things that are horribly that happen to you are now all of a sudden okay. It's this, hey, in this moment, my life is really hard. I've got this, and this that I'm dealing with, and it's hard, and I'm doing the best that I can, and that's where I am, and it's okay. It's okay that I forgot to. It's okay that I walked past my dog outside the grocery store and walked home and then realized that I didn't bring my dog home and I had to go back up to the store. It's accepting all the parts of us and giving care to that. It's also accepting the situation and the moment and not wishing it was any other way than it is, which is very hard when you are going through chronic illness and you're going through really hard losses and stress and grief. But if you can think about the impermanence of this moment, and as hard as it is, I've made it through things in the past, and I've got this, and this by my side, and I'm part of a larger universe that cares about me, and I have support. And I think I'm going to be able to get through it. And right now it's really hard. But there also may be something I can learn here.
Mm.
So it's twofold to me. It's the acceptance of me and all the parts of me, and it's acceptance of the moment. And realizing that we have lived in such a dynamic world that things are changing all the time and we are changing all the time. And we have a lot more, when we realize that and we have that acceptance and we stop resisting, we are actually able to be more innovative, more creative, more productive, more efficient, better problem solving, decision making. So it's that, well, if I accept it and I didn't reach that goal, then I'm letting myself off the hook. And it's actually your nervous system is not able to fully engage that prefrontal cortex like it would if you did accept.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's such a great big thing that I feel, again, the stories and the narratives of what it actually means are a disservice to us because, you know, I mean, if you have a pet or you have a child, you accept them, you accept all of them. You don't say, "Oh, I hate this about you," and it's kind of like you take the whole package. There's parts of my dog that drive me nuts, but I love her so much, you know. And same with my husband and my dad, you know. So it's turning that inward and giving that to ourselves, you know. There's parts of us that we don't love or don't want to love, but that's a part of us. That's, you know, it's a piece.
Yeah.
And if you can give that to yourself, wow, it's it's pretty powerful. It's that is like the that's like the pilot that turns on your inner flame, your inner
Mm.
power.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything else lights up once you can find
Yeah.
your way back to yourself. I love the way you laid that out. Acceptance as both a self-honoring and an honesty with the moment, with the circumstance, with the environment. Like you can stop resisting the truth of the moment that's in front of you. You can stop fighting it and be compassionate with yourself in it and honor your experience as hard. And then once you do that, you soften to see like that whole picture. I loved the grain of sand and the whole beach, right? Like this is all real. And like when we're so hyper fixated on that and we're resisting and we're fighting and we're spending all of our energy on that, we miss so much of our human life.
Yeah, and it's that curiosity of, you know, what else is here? You know,
Mm,
look inside. And you know, a lot of times it's just a little shift in our perspective. What else is here? What can I learn from this? And it's not the same as toxic positivity where it's like, oh, this is great, this is okay. You know, it's seeing the hardship, but also I, I would argue that adversity is what makes you who you are. If life is just sailing through and you don't, you know, it's like the light, we appreciate the light. Gosh, here in Seattle, we have such long, dark, cold, rainy winters that as soon as the sun comes out in the spring, it's just like, ah, we're all crazy. It's crazy.
mm,
But you need that dark to really illuminate the light. And I think adversity really shows you who you are, and it gives perspective of what you have in your life. You know, we all have things we can be grateful for, no matter who you are or what you're going through, but we forget because of the negativity bias
mhm.
and the stories, and maybe we cling to what we were in a bygone past, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but those perspective shifts I think are so powerful and I feel the same way. I mean, I think when I think on my own journey and I think about the hardest moments, the most painful moments, the biggest challenges I had to overcome and those were all like the deepest opportunities to like one connect with humanity, right? Like we all experience these things and like you can have so much more compassion for other people when you've experienced that. And then two, like it's opening a door somewhere for some healing or some insight or some learning. And once you have that, the hardships don't stop. But I relate to hard times in my life so much different now. Like when that wave of hardship comes again, because life will just keep bringing things. I mean, it's not a static thing. Our life is constantly evolving and changing, and our environments are changing, and hard things do happen, and we lose people, and we have to overcome more hardships. Like you don't get to be done, like you said, but once you have this perspective and you can really embrace the acceptance you're talking to, I think that's when the next hardship comes and you know, even though you're honoring in the moment the pain, that you can move through it and that there is something else and that there might even be some medicine within the pain itself. Like you look even at the hardship different, I think.
Yeah, and you have more agency. You know, I think that's another thing is that, you know, you've been through some really hard times. So as bad as it can get, you know, you have this knowing of who you are,
Mm,
and the fabric of who you are isn't going to change because of this. You're going to discover things about you. maybe that wasn't right. You know, you'll discover more things about you.
Yes.
But it isn't going to, it's not even so much the events that happen to us, it's the perspective that we have of the events. It's our perceptions of the events themselves. And having that knowledge and that awareness and that mindfulness and that agency within you, I feel you're better armed to be able to roll with things better.
Hmm.
I mean, and we're on unprecedented times. I mean, the world is I don't listen to the news. I know enough to know what's going on, but the anxiety and the stress levels right now are just so off the charts, and people are more lonely than they've ever been, yet we're more connected supposedly than we've ever been. But I think the more you can really develop yourself, the more, you know, inner agency you have to be able to connect with others and to be more resilient, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the steady ground is in ourselves. Like that's where you can find some center, some balance amidst the chaos, amidst the hardship. Like there's something there that can hold you, and that is I don't know. It can keep you believing in even the darkest moments when you have that approach. But I'm looking at the time and I'm like, I want to talk a little bit more to the belief piece before we wrap up our conversation. So we talked about rewiring the beliefs, and I think that's kind of been woven through our whole conversation in some way or another. Like it's all about what we're believing. But when we're actually trying to identify the beliefs, the thoughts, the things going on in our mind, and then rewrite them and reclaim them and self-author and take that agency that you were just speaking to, I think it
Mhm.
it can feel hard and it can feel disorienting and people don't always know where to start. And there's different practices available, but what worked for you and what do you lean on for that process of really doing this belief work that we need?
Yeah, what really helped me was looking at, starting with the story. So at my beginning, the belief that I'm not going to heal and putting it to the test. Is that 100% true? Well, it hasn't happened yet. There's no way it can be true. And most of my beliefs in my illness were future based. What's going to happen? This symptom means this. I'm going to, get worse. I can't exercise because I'm going to have a flare up. I can't see people because it's going to make me sick. So many of these beliefs and anxiety about what's going to happen in the future, you know, those are all future. There's no way it can be true. So the belief itself about that. And then what am I believing about myself around the situation of illness? Am I believing that my body isn't capable of healing? I'm believing I won't be able to find a doctor. So is that true? We have incredible innate ability to heal. And definitely with chronic illness, it kind of goes off the rails because of other changes. So I'm not advocating for no doctor, but we have incredible medicine that is us. And the mind is powerful, and that's the placebo effect. And it is so common, and it's with surgeries, it's with medicines, it's with procedures. And so part of that belief and changing that story was creating a vision. What do I want to believe about my body? Well, my body is incredibly strong, and I have all of my cells are listening. All 50 trillion cells listen to every thought I have. And what if I send them light and love and healing, and I visualize what a healthy body looks like, what a healthy person looks like. What am I doing? How am I feeling? Where am I living? Who am I with? make it as rich as I can. So I create that new story of a healthy person. And I believe in that. And when fear tries to tell me I'm not going to get better, I replace that with the belief in this amazing healer that I am, and that I I'm a dogged researcher, and I'll find somebody to help me. But it's really testing that. And also, other people are part of our beliefs. We take their opinions as evidence to confirm our beliefs. So my husband, I mean, we had taken care of me in our vows at our wedding. I mean, it was like, oh my God. And he's like, you know, maybe this is how you're going to be. And I said, no, this is not living. So his belief was that I wouldn't get better, because why would it be any different now? Because I'm all of a sudden believing in it. So it's something that I needed to check his beliefs at the door and really reaffirm mine. And sometimes it was every several minutes I had to recommit to the belief.
Mm,
But I had anchors in that, and I had songs, and I had notes, and I had pictures. So it's like that seed. The belief is that seed. The new story is that seed, and I need to cultivate that every day, and sometimes many times a day. And all these things that I did initially, I still do. I still meditate, breathe, mindfulness, movement, believe. It's it's just a way of living and being in the world. So we can rewrite them, and the effects on my body have been incredible, just from the the thoughts that I have and messages that I send my body, and the acceptance, and knowing she's working so hard to heal,
mm,
and acknowledging that. Yeah.
mm. I love that. I I love your just entire approach to this healing journey, and the self-love and affirmation. And even with this belief work, it's also like believing that you can, is what I'm hearing from you. And
Hmm.
that even if the seed is small, like believing that it can grow and giving it the things it needs to be nurtured and to revisit it. And I think that's the hard part. And what I've seen with people, right? It's like you might see the belief, you might notice the pattern, you might start to get some awareness around it, but then when the new belief doesn't take hold right away, it can feel discouraging and frustrating, and it can revalidate all of those old beliefs, right? When the new one doesn't stick. So to
Exactly.
yeah, to approach it as like as a gardener, like we have to keep showing up for this. We have to nurture it. We have to love it. We have to keep bringing it to life again and again. And that's an act of really self-love, right?
Yeah, and it's hard when you're in it day in and day out to see progress. And this could be a belief that your business is going to succeed, or your belief, it can be anything. But as long as you have that, it's hard. Again, it's like that, like you said, it's that recommitting to it every day, and looking at what seeds can I plant, or how can I nurture this every day. And I believe it'll grow. And it does grow. I mean, I'm proof that it does grow, and there's a lot of people out there who for whom it does, and that you've experienced it.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be you have to be in a place on your journey where you're ready for this, because it's work. It's the most fulfilling work I think you can do in your life. But I also think it takes a certain point in your journey to be wanting to do this and to be ready to do it.
Mm,
And for me, it was 10 years. I was like, nope, 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 nope. you know, and then I got to a point where I didn't really have a choice. And I think then it's easier to commit because you're there. You're all in.
Mm,
You got to be all in. I think you've got to be all in,
yeah.
you know.
That's such a powerful point to make here as we're, nearing the end of our conversation about this like readiness and willingness to commit to the practice of healing and change. And I think you're so right in that sometimes that's why I think our hardest moments are the ones that propel us because that's when we realize like we've bottomed out and like we have to do this work now. Like there's no other choice if we're going to survive. Like stuff has to change and that innately like fuels that commitment. Yeah, but it's a different story for every person. But I think just yeah, knowing that you're ready and you're ready to do the work and making that commitment and knowing the timing is divine in some ways. I think, it
Mhm.
comes to you when you need it and then you make choices to keep it going. But
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, we are going to wrap up our conversation
Okay.
reluctantly, but I want to open for one final question, which is just that this conversation flew by and we've talked about so many beautiful things, but I just want to open it to ask you what you want to leave the listeners with. Like if you had to just give one final message to the people listening. They clicked on this episode. They're probably navigating some stress or a hardship or an illness or even just, feeling a little stuck. So what do you really want to leave them with?
I think the most important thing is to give yourself kindness every day. At least one act of kindness to yourself to work toward building the relationship with yourself. And you don't have to do it all at once. It doesn't, acceptance, I mean, this was a 3-year journey for me. I mean, it's still unfolding. It's 4 years later. But it feels really good. And being kind to yourself and starting to kind of see yourself as worth being kind to,
Mm,
and having that awareness of the way that you talk to yourself and choosing kind words. It's so simple, and yet we don't naturally do it.
yeah.
And it's extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. Yeah.
Mm. That's a beautiful, beautiful place to end. Where can people find you if they want to stay in touch with all the things you're doing?
Yeah, thanks. UnshakableMe.com. I've got my programs. I also have a lot of free resources for people who are going through anxiety, life challenges, chronic illness. I also am on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So I have a lot of videos too on YouTube, parts of my journey and things that have been really helpful for me. So those are just a few of the ways to get in touch with me. And I do have opportunities to sign up for a Zoom call with me that's free of charge, just to see if the program might be useful for you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing and for spending this time with me. I will make sure there's links to all of the places people can find you and connect with you in the show notes so they're easy to find. This has been so beautiful. I know I'm feeling just really touched and yeah, inspired and connected in this moment. So I appreciate your energy, your time, your commitment to this work and to bringing your message. You articulate some of these things just so profoundly, so beautifully in a way that I think will be really digestible. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Kayla. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah. Great to connect with you.
Well, for everyone who's listening, I hope that you connect with Heidi and share this episode with somebody who might need it because this one was just full of ways to nourish and love ourselves. And I'm sure we all have people in our lives that would benefit from hearing this. But most of all, ask yourself, what is something kind you can do for you today, right now, as you're finishing up this episode? And Yeah, see where that takes you as a starting point. I'll talk to you all soon. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day and take good care of yourselves until we talk again. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. If this episode spoke to you, please take a moment to follow, rate, and share it with someone who might need it. If you're looking for more tools to help you thrive in your life, or if you're curious about working with me, please visit my website at internallyguidedleadership.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at Internally Guided Coach. Be gentle with yourself out there, and I'll talk to you next time.